Okie dokie, people, let's start from the basics. So in yoga, we do a lot of things with hands on the floor. And what I see oftentimes in my classes and working with my clients, there's this lack of control and activation in the hands and in the fingers. So the hands are just there on the floor because they have to be, but they're not doing anything. And then we're not arriving at engaging our body in an entire way. And then we hear cues like do this and do that or engage. And then, the hands are still inactive and we try to find the work somewhere else. But if we're starting from really feeling our hands pushing into the floor, getting that pushback energy, the muscles of the hands working, keeping our joints spacious and protected, and of course giving us more control organically. So let's start with our hands. So first, bend your elbows, bring them to the sides of the ear. From the elbow to the wrist, nothing is allowed to turn and move, and we're gonna try to mobilize the hand in the wrist. And so from here, with the shoulders anchored down, I have my toes tucked under so that I get to stretch my toes a little bit and the soles of my feet, but you don't have to do that. You can always have your feet pointed. And if sitting on your heels is not comfortable, then you can always sit upright or just sit on the floor as you feel comfortable. So we let the fingers bend in immediately, then they go down, they turn to the side, and they come up. And we continue in the same direction, making slow, smooth circles. And if you're noticing my forearms are not turning and they're not moving, you should look at your own forearms, making sure that they're not doing anything else. And then let's go out. The fingers are going to go down. They're going to go in towards each other, and then they're going to lift up. The movement is smooth, although I just say the 4 directions. So from the fingers being medially pointing towards each other, we're going to have to cut a corner to lift the fingers up because we can't really make a full circle in the joint the same as we go out to the side and then as we go down. Let's do one more time. And in time, the more experience you get, the more you can control your muscles and the more you try to move into the end of your range, engaging all the muscles of the forearm more, getting a little bit more out of your back, of your hands working. Then we're gonna bring the hands into the floor and just shift the weight from one side to the other. And here, we don't want to be dropping with our chest in between our shoulders. I'm pushing my hands and fingertips into the floor, and the chest, the rib cage, is lifting up away from the floor. And I'm going to turn my left hand out to the side, pressing, then the fingertips, and on the base of the palm. And I do this with the other hand, so in 3 segments. And as I do it, I turn my hands towards me, and then I come back from the side. 3 segments, fingertips, bases of your fingers, bases of the palms. And then I come in. And I go back out again. And I turn my fingers out. Now I'm pushing the floor away, the heart is lifting, it's buoyant, the rib cage up to the ceiling, and the neck is nice and long. Shifting the weight from one side to the other. My fingertips are also pushing, and I go up to the point that I feel my wrists allow me. If you're feeling pain in the closing angle of the joint, you should not push through that pain, as it might mean there's a little bit of compression there. Probably it's a good idea to have someone see that, because we're meant to be feeling the stretch, in the inside of the rest and not the closing. And so from here, after a few repetitions, come back forward and let's do some palm lifts. The less strength we have and the less control, the more we need to take our shoulders back. The stronger we are, the more control the shoulders can be, more forward as we have more load onto the wrist. So we lift the bases of the palms and we try to keep the bases of the knuckles on the floor, and then we bring them down. We go up and down. And when you push down, feel as if you have something underneath your palm and you're really pushing down with resistance to crush it down onto the floor. And we can do the same thing by lifting onto our fingertips with the fingers straight, they're not bending up and down. And you can repeat that from 5 to 10 times if you're starting with this. 5 times is okay, and build up to 10. And of course, the more forward the shoulders are, the more load we have, so you can make it even more difficult. Now from here, toes tucked, you push your hands forward, and as you push your hands forward, you feel the shoulders engage and sway back, sending your sit bones back towards the heels. The toes are spread and pushing into the floor, and then pull the hands towards you and bring your body forward. Shoulders forward from the wrist if possible, otherwise you stay up to the point the wrists allow. You make a big circle to your left side, you come forward, and you make a big circle to your right side. You stay forward and you push your hands forward, and then you sway back. Then you pull the hands towards you, you come forward, and you make a big circle towards your right side and a circle to your left. And from here, we stay forward, you push your hands forward, find that load into the shoulders again, and then you go back and you lift your fingers up. The bases of your palms are pushing forward, the back of the hand and the fingers are pulling towards the forearms. And now we start to tap. And as you tap, you come forward and you stop to the point where you feel that the tapping gets a little bit challenging. You can barely lift the fingers off the floor, and you tap, 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 tap. And then you squeeze the floor. You bring the shoulders more forward, and you push your hands down into the floor as if you want to bend your hands into the wrist. Into the floor, I wanted to say, sorry. So you're pushing down with that intent of bending. Nothing happens, of course, the floor is there. And then you think of doing the opposite. The back of the hand is pulling up towards the forearm, and sway back, keeping that lift of the palm and the fingers up. You come back, and then you bring your fingers down and you start to tap. And you tap, 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 and you continue to tap. And then you grip the floor and you shift forward. Keep the heart lifting, try not to collapse, not to lift the shoulders to the ears. So you have your shoulder blades anchored down, and then try to lift your palms up and you hold that for a moment. So you're activating the regressive side of your wrist into your end range, and then you go back and you try to keep that range of motion that you had passively to make it active. And you can repeat that 5 times, then come up and bring your hands into fists on the floor. You're pushing into the floor, and with straight arms, without bending your elbows, you're going to roll through your wrists and come up. Now here, you might not be able to bring your entire hand to the floor, and that's fine. You shouldn't force it. And be, especially at the beginning, in a point where your arms can be off of the floor. So I'm not carrying my body weight on my wrists. My body weight is on my pelvis. So the thighs and the buttocks, the hips are working a little bit. The lower back is nice and long. And so at any given time, you can lift your arms. If you feel you have more strength and you've been doing such things for a while, you can have your hands a little bit more forward, loading up your joints. But remember, when it comes to loading our body, our joints, or our muscles even, we should do it gradually. So if you've never done this before, you wouldn't go with your full-on body weight and try to do it. That wouldn't bring positive results. Probably you get injured, if not straight away. If you do it a few times, definitely at some point. So you should always try to gradually and progressively push up your limit without exaggerating or doing too much too soon, too fast. Yeah. And so after you finish those repetitions that you're rolling your fist down and up, you could also roll down, open your fingers, Bend the elbows now and bringing the chest towards the hands. So make sure your hands are not too forward. And then stretch the arms, squeeze your hands into fists and come back. And once again, doing the same thing. And you can repeat the same thing 5 to 10 times. And then letting your fist go forward and back, forward and back. And once again, try to maintain the integrity of the rest of the spine, of the shoulders. I'm not collapsing. I'm not rounding my spine. I'm not letting my head drop, neither my chin to lift. I try to keep everything active, nice and long, making good habits. So then, for example, coming into this quadruped position, hands, fists, whatever, teaches me to be in the same degree of activation when I'm coming to planks and not being like a hammock or having things hanging. Yeah, it helps to also bring more awareness into our shoulder blades, into our core. And so we're not talking about that though. We're doing rest. So another exercise, we do a couple more things. There's plenty of things we can do, but for today, a couple more would suffice. So we let the fingers point outwards and inwards. And this is kind of similar to when we were doing the circle, but going out and in. So out and in 3 times, and then stay in with your fingers, one finger at a time. You bend them, the thumb comes over and the knuckles go down and in. And you're going to push your thumb forward. You're going to lift your fingers up. The back of the hand is pulling to the forearm, the fingers as well, similar to what we were doing on the floor. And then once again, out and in, out, in, out, and keep them in, one finger at a time. Thumb goes over, knuckles down, then send the thumb forward. And last one, but you can do it 5 times, 10 times. This repetition. I usually introduce this into my practice to warm up my wrists before I do my yoga practice or any other practice that I'm doing, needing hands on the floor or holding weights. And what I've noticed is whenever I do this priming or a warm up, not just the wrist, but in all of my joints, and we can see that in the future, what to do from every single joint in the body. What I notice is my practice, even on the days that I might feel stiffer, is much more fluid. I have much more resilience in my joints. And again, I don't get these little discomforts of injuries or sometimes jumping back on transferring weight a little wrongly. I feel that my joints are able to recover much faster and sustain whatever challenge I give them. So last one, this one, I call it the 100, like you have Pilates 100, but this is the hands 100, wrist 100. With explosivity, we open and we close the fingers. We're not going to do 100, but just to give you an idea how it works. Straight, shoulders down, spine nice and tall, and you just do it as fast as you can. And when you do 100, you'll feel the entire forearm burning, the muscles are really tired. And so with this, as the forearms get stronger, if you're doing any arm balancing work, then this will help to keep the forearms much more stable and strong in any arm balance that you're doing, handstands or whatnot. Yeah. So these are the exercises for today. For the rest, hit me up in the DM if you want more, if you have questions, anything that comes up. Thank you, guys.